Hey guys, and welcome back to Let's Play Rome Total Realism with me, Grey Hunter. This one is a little bit different. Basically, the recording session that I just did completely and totally fucked itself. First Fraps didn't work, then Audacity didn't work, then the game didn't work, then Fraps decided it wasn't really keen on working again. Basically, it led to a whole big kerfuffle. So, I finally got recording to work, and then Audacity was just like, yeah, I'm not actually going to record anything that you can use. In fact, what I'm going to record is a file that is so garbled and jumbled that if you tried to use it, people would probably shoot you for, well, harassing their ears and trying to kill them through the power of sound, which would be rather unfortunate, because I actually like you guys, and I hope that you guys like me. But basically what follows is this game session with post-commentary, so I'm probably going to be talking a bit more about what I'm doing, as opposed to when it's live, when you fumble for you fumble for thoughts, basically. So hopefully, not that this post-commentary is doing so much greater, I suppose. I was just fumbling for thoughts there. But basically, it's going to be epic battles, cities taken, and a lot of this, what you can see on the screen right now. So, sit back, enjoy the ride, and watch Sabinus kick some Selucid ass, because that's what he does. He kicks Selucid ass. And so do I. So, we moved a couple of armies around, as you can obviously see. We're besieging Heraclea. Herius the Victor, who is now the Victor instead of Sabinus, is hanging around outside Adana, and Adana itself is being besieged. Now, the reason for that is because I split off his second-in-command to take a mercenary army to besiege Adana, and we are besieging Heraclea. And there is a big army waiting for us. Not fun, as I'm sure you can agree. We do have legions moving from Italy over to here, but I did spot these two big bastard stacks coming out of the mountains, and I'm sure that there's more coming behind them. So, we're kinda screwed if we don't get the situation under control. But that's okay, we're gonna go there, we're gonna get there. There's a small army in front of us. Yeah, there we go. Only about 1,000 odd men, but we needed to take them out so that we could get around behind the bigger army. Because I'm hoping if we attack from behind, well, I was hoping, that we wouldn't have to fight the other army as well. Unfortunately, this was not the case. We did have to fight them. And that guy actually has Night Fighter, so we can't just attack during the night and evade him that way. He doesn't have very good units though. He's pretty screwed in that regard, so we're okay in terms of facing off against his army. But yeah, there you go. He's got Night Fighter. He's a decent commander. And the other guy has a lot of good infantry. So it's a little bit tricky what we're going to do here, but Herius the Victor is a good commander, so I decide in the end, screw it, let's just attack. Because we need to take out that army. If we don't take out that army, then, well, we're going to be attacked at Adana by it, and I'm sure that the troops at Adana could not possibly win. So I let him do his little speech thing.
Of the old style. I believe in discipline, dignity, and duty. I believe that Rome has a destiny to rule the world.
Mainly by kicking the crap out of everybody else.
That we have a destiny that starts afresh here.
By kicking the crap out of these guys.
There stand the warriors of Seleucia. They are right to be proud, for they are worthy foes.
Yeah.
They have
sort
been
of.
led here by strutting fools and blustering morons. Now they will pay the price. There are more of them than there are of us. So be it. We will fight like lions instead of men.
Hell yes.
I have never yet lost a fight against these men. I have no intention of starting today. So together we will gain another victory. Now I say, this far and no further. Here we make a stand. You all know my worth and what I have done before. Of the foes who attacked me in the past, few ever
Technically
got the
we
boast of
attacked
their
them,
success.
but anyway.
And the first man to the enemy gets a jug of my finest wine.
He certainly has that whole attack thing down. So we're going to set up the army as we usually do, and I'm going to explain what else happened on the campaign map. We fought a... oh yeah, we're going to use that rock as our flank, basically. Which would make sense, because it's there, and if we didn't use it, we'd be idiots. We did decide to attack the troops outside of Adana after we detached Sabinus' second-in-command to besiege Adana so the other guy couldn't escape into it. Unfortunately, that guy, well, he tricked us. He was a sneaky bastard. He decided that he'd say he would fight, and then didn't. So, there's that. He is the guy who has about 1,000 reinforcements coming in. He threw away 2-3 units to sacrifice themselves so that he could get the rest of his army out. Clever, actually, quite clever. But they're going to die now, basically. Spoilers, we're going to win this one. We've got a fairly good position, actually, considering that we're outnumbered about 2-1 almost. We've got a fairly decent position, and they do have fairly bad troops. I moved the archer units up just a teeny tiny bit, because I want them to have the range of the hill, but I want them to also be close enough that they can provide fire while the enemy advances. So you can see they've got a fair few men. Our reinforcements are delayed there, I believe. Not ours, sorry, theirs. And, yes, enemy reinforcements delayed. So they'll be coming in from behind us, I believe, on our right, if I remember correctly. And these fellows, well, they're going to do a decent job of trying to kill us all before they get here. So I moved the Thracians just a little tiny bit because I want to make sure that we're actually using the rock to defend our flank, because it's a good solid position, and we've got javelins on those Thracians, so we might as well use them to hold that line there. It's not too bad of a spot, but we do have to worry just a little bit, yeah, just a teeny tiny bit, about all that enemy infantry. They've got a lot of phalanx units, and the phalanx units they have are actually quite decent. Luckily they don't have many javelineers, so we're able to kill most of them fairly quickly. I think that unit's about to break, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there they go. They started out as almost a full unit, and they're running. Now they've got a lot of light infantry as well, so my strategy was, originally, to see if we couldn't break one or two of those units and then charge the rest of them, exploiting the break in the line. It doesn't really work out all that well, but you'll see in a moment. So they've got a ton of those light infantry guys who don't really fight all that well, but they've also got a lot of phalanx units that are actually moving fairly solidly actually towards us, so I'm a little bit concerned about what they're going to do. And as you can see, it's devolving into a bit of a clusterfuck down there. They're not too organised, but they've got a ton of infantry. They've got some missile cav as well that are trying to flank around our side, but luckily our Thracians are there, so they'll be able to shoot at them while they attack. Their light infantry is making a charge at our centre, and I see that there's a phalanx unit moving, so I decided to make a counter charge with our Galatians on the flank. Unfortunately, the Galatians on the flank do a little bit too well, because we've killed enough of them that now their reinforcements are arriving. Fun. So it's about now that I decide, screw it, throw all caution to the wind. I'm pretty sure I just ordered the charge about 10 seconds ago, and we've charged right down into their centre. The cavalry's moving around on the flank, and the Thracians are wrapping up around it too, which means our units are going to get mauled a fair bit, but it's worth it. Because if we can win this battle, then we've crushed the large army that was actually near us. We kind of needed to do that. It's very important. So they're throwing their phalanxes into the centre, trying to hold us back. They're doing a fairly decent job, all things considered, but Sabinus has good troops. He's got good veteran troops, and the cavalry are able to get around the flank. The Thracians aren't so, happy about fighting there, though. They tried to run past, chasing the rest of the barbarians, and I try to loop around the back and move our cavalry in a little bit further. The problem is that this army is commanded by a captain, and I don't know where he is, so our usual strategy of enticing them into a line battle and then moving our cavalry around and taking out the general doesn't work so well. So we're just trying to hammer and anvil them a little bit, even though cavalry is a lot weaker in Rome Total Realism than it is in Rome Total War Vanilla. It still works to a certain extent, and mainly we're just trying to hammer them a little bit so that they get a lot of casualties just on the charge, because cavalry can't do a stand-up fight with any infantry. It doesn't really work that way. It's not going to be successful. So we try to just hammer them a little bit with a couple of successful charges to sort of nutcracker them, if that makes sense. We want to hammer and anvil them so we cause enough casualties on the charge that they get freaked out and they break to the infantry, so the infantry can wrap up the line. Unfortunately, we don't really have enough cavalry to do that. We've got some good cavalry, but our equite unit is way under strength. So far, though, we're doing pretty well, except for the equites, who decided that no, they didn't really want to leave at all. Yeah, they're just sort of hanging out there. Okay. So some of our Principes are actually charging up that way. I don't think I noticed at this point. But there's some Principes charging with that infantry that's routing. I leave them alone for the most part because they're doing a good job. They're keeping the guys from deciding that they're not really into the whole routing thing anymore. So, you know, there's that. Sabinus is doing a good job too. Now Thracians there on the side aren't really doing much, so I start wrapping them around the back. But we've broken most of this army. I decided not to give chase to the unit that just broke, because if we do, we lose our chance to wrap around the flanks of the phalanxes that are still there. So I decided instead to send the equites back towards those guys, because they ended up getting in a fight with some Galatian swordsmen, who decided that no, they weren't really interested in that whole routing thing, and those Principes, they just sort of stopped. I'm not sure how long they've been there, but at least I noticed. So we start moving our infantry sort of around to the right, because we want to hold that rock as our flank, but we want to face off against the enemies. So we start moving our line around to the right, if I remember correctly. Yep, there goes their captain.
The enemy general is killed.
Good, good.
Fear makes a home in our enemies' hearts.
And that's most of the line broken. So what I do is I start moving the archers and such up a little bit, because we want to hold the line with the rock to our flank, as I've said already. So we're moving a few troops, a mishmash of our infantry basically, into a holding line so that we can cover the rest of them coming back. They've got some Asiatic horsemen who are very, very good at skirmishing, hanging around, so we just sort of need to hold off on that. But we've got some Thracians out here to reinforce the Principes, and we're able to wrap up the rest of these guys who are holding out and retreating. So our cavalry managed to do its job in following the routers and chasing them all down. But unfortunately, those Asiatic horse are doing a good job. They do get a few kills. But we managed to withdraw most of our infantry back over to our original starting point, or a little bit lower than where we originally started, obviously, as you can see from all the corpses. But it was a good tactical withdrawal. We didn't really lose anybody, and I'm okay with letting some of those troops go, because, well, if they run, they run. But they're not fighting me. And this battle was more about taking one of the armies out of commission, and we did. We took the big army out of commission. The small army is only about 1,000 men. It's not a real big deal. We can crush it any day of the week. But that 3,600 man army, very, very important. So we're just moving our infantry back into the safety of the archers. They're not attacking with their cavalry, because their cavalry cannot break our infantry, basically. So we just sort of wait. We're going to have to take their fire, but they're moving some troops up. They have got a little bit of infantry. They've got weak Syrtian infantry, and they can use them effectively, but they almost get me, because I was so focused on using that rock for the flank that I'm not sure exactly when I notice it, but eventually I turn around the view just a little bit to get a better view of what is coming towards me from around the front of the rock, and I discover that the bastards have sucker punched me, and they're trying to come in from behind it instead of just in front. It's quite clever, actually. So I send the cavalry out after those Asiatic guys in a minute, I think. But it should be about now that I notice the... No? Guess I got my timing a little bit wrong. I think we're just readjusting the line at this point to make sure that everyone's in their right spots, in their right groups together. But we've done quite well, all things considered. We've mainly managed to keep our units together, and we haven't really suffered all that many casualties considering how many people we've killed. And there go the cavalry after the Asiatic Javelineers. Now, there's some more Syrtian spearmen coming towards me. I'm not really worried about moving in front of them because I've got so many infantry
enemy is in flight.
that really I can't do anything about it. And you might be able to see it right there on the right, but that is General Samophocles' unit charging straight towards my archers. I thought for a minute there that that was a unit routing, but no, it was not. I was lucky that I noticed in time, and that he only killed a few of my Galatian slingers. But I call some of the cavalry back because I know we'll need them. I think I leave the Equites charging after those guys, and maybe Sabinus as well. But yeah, we need to take these guys out. That general can do a lot of damage to a lot of my good units. And that is why you should always have a tactical reserve. I didn't have one because in this battle, I couldn't really afford to. I couldn't afford to have a unit not standing in the line. I guess the Gauls were probably my strategic reserve, but it wasn't a very large one, and it wasn't really particularly well prepared either. I'm pretty sure that he gets away. Actually, yes, I know he does. But we managed to save our archers and such, so we're able to move them out of the line of fire and move our infantry in to cover them. It's not ideal, but it worked. Alright, there we go. Come on, cavalry, move on, move on. There we are, and we throw our Gauls in there. We throw the rest of our infantry in. Our cavalry got caught. It's so tired from all that running around that we made it do, so it was bound to get caught eventually. And we're lucky that we only lost about 10 men from that one. So I got all my archers to stop shooting. Most of them are out of ammo, but I don't want them causing extra casualties by shooting at troops that aren't in close combat, but then end up in close combat. Because if we do that, we'll end up just killing more of our men, and frankly, that would be a foolish thing to do. The Sirtians are on the run, so I send the cavalry back in after them. And then all we've got to deal with is that little phalanx. That little phalanx is so buggered. Nope. No man gets away.
Only frightened rabbits running from our men.
Only the ones that we had to let go because we didn't have the men to chase them earlier. Cool. So I'm pretty sure that I fast forward about now, after I get the Equites to chase after a couple of other people. But basically, we won a battle that we probably shouldn't have won. He had 4,800 odd men, I think, compared to our 2,400. That we won is basically down to the tactical approach we had, in that our flank was secure. They couldn't outflank us on the right, so we could deal with that by charging straight up at them when the time came. Though, like every other time that I've charged, it's basically been a desperate gamble that our quality infantry will be able to take out their quality infantry. And for the most part it's been true, because they've got those weak light infantry supporting them. But we've crushed the enemy, and we have 4,536 kills to, I believe, about 300 odd losses. I think. I didn't get a chance to read that properly. But Sabinus has won yet another great victory, and we've cleared out all the enemies that are around us at this point. So that's where the generals who survived went to. He's got hardly any troops, but the game wasn't letting me click on him. It was going, no, surely you want to click on the city. No, not really, actually, thanks. But I try to get back to him. I can't quite make it, but that's okay. We'll deal with him later. So, if I remember correctly, I grabbed a Principe unit, I think, from over in Nicomedia? Or Prusia? Nicomedia, I think. Yeah, I grabbed a Principe unit because I want to replenish as many of them as I can. We've got good trained infantry. They've got 2 or 3 veterancy bars each, so we won't suffer too much of a dilution of experience, which is nice, because at this point, experience is basically what's keeping us in the game. because if I attacked with, say, Drusus's army by itself against one of those Selucid stacks, I'd probably get wiped, because they'd fight well, but eventually they would break, because 1, Drusus isn't as good a commander as Sabinus, and 2, he hasn't got veteran infantry. He's got veteran archers, but archers can't stand up in a line fight. It just doesn't happen. So we attack Arsinoe now, because it's got hardly any troops in it. It's only got 1 actual full unit. So we're fairly lucky in that the guys that we were trying to fight against weren't really prepared for us. So we've got 2 rams, I believe. Yes, we do. And I put the Sicilian pirates on them, because the Sicilian pirates are basically a throwaway unit. They're nice skirmishers, but they're not really troops that I'd throw into the line of battle except in the most desperate of circumstances, because they're even worse than archers. They're skirmisher units, they're not made for frontline combat, even more so than archers are. Archers can generally stand up to a charge from other infantry units. Cavalry bones everything that doesn't have heavy armor, so that's understandable. But the Sicilian pirates aren't even armored, I don't think. I'm pretty sure they've got a armor rating in the low single digits, probably 4, maybe 5. And yeah, they're cannon fodder basically at this point. Drusus and the cavalry are basically not going to be used at all in this battle. It's going to be the infantry and the archers. I've got Slingers of Rhodes and I've got Cretan archers, so that is a massive boon for us because we've got good long-range units that can probably outrange anything the Egyptians had. I forgot to take a quick look at their roster when I was doing this post-commentary, so I didn't notice what they had, but I'm pretty sure that they've only got a unit of peltasts at most, which is, it's not going to even remotely contest the range without good troops. It's not going to happen. Simple as that. So we start moving up towards the gates because we can use our superior archery and our superior slinging abilities to kill off as many of the guys standing near the gate as possible, because they're not going to move. They can't move. If they move and a breach occurs, then they're all dead. So they start sort of running around like headless chickens, which is beautiful, and I noticed that the general is sitting there with his entire unit. We can't really do much damage to them. They're very heavily armoured because they're heavy cavalry and they're general cav, but we do manage to kill a couple of them, and that's very important because we're going to have to kill everybody in here after all. So, you know, the quicker we can kill off some of them, the better. But some of those Libyans and some of the, I think he has Nubians as well. Either way, his spear infantry and his cavalry present their flanks to us, and that's very, very good for us because we are able to score a couple of easy kills because the shields aren't on that side. The general, however, does cotton onto it a little bit. I tried to get my skirmishers to kill him, hoping that we could get a quick, easy kill. Not so much. But there's a unit of pikemen. You can probably see them now. They just spend the entire battle before we get in there and start killing them, bobbing up and down with their pikes. They just bob up and down with their pikes. There is nothing else that they do. They just go up, down, up, down, up, down. We did manage to kill about 10 of the Hetaroi general cav. Though unfortunately they're still glad to have the general in the unit, so we didn't bag the big guy. Things aren't going too badly though. Generally, we've got it going well for this battle. We outnumber them by at least 3 to 1, I'm pretty sure. I'm fairly certain he has less than 800 men. We've got about 2,400. But we've got 2,400 unblooded men. So that's the major thing here. But we do have arrow superiority, and in Rome Total War Vanilla, this is how I like to play my battles. I'd have a ton of archers, I'd have a ton of missile units, I'd have about the same amount of infantry that I have in this army, but I'd use the archers more. Infantry would pretty much be a last resort thing, which wasn't really the way battles were fought, at least not for the Romans, in ancient history. They weren't really big on the whole archery thing. They had slingers, they had velites. Velites were the guys who couldn't really afford armour to stand in the line of battle with the Hastati, the Principes, and the Triarii. But for the most part, the Roman armies were heavy infantry based. So the Hastati, Principes, and Triarii, and then later on the actual legionaries of Marius' day. So my tactics don't generally work in Rome Total Realism unless I'm able to get the territories we got earlier and have a substantial base of operations that we can manage to recruit troops like the Cretan archers or the Roman slingers.
Roman military engineering
We've broken down the gate. I wanted to have
The
multiple
walls are
breaches,
down. Order your men
mainly
on to
because
victory.
then the enemy has to choose which one it's going to defend. I'm going to go through both, but they have to defend both, and if I have the superiority of numbers, then I don't have to worry so much. If you attack a single point, even if you outnumber people massively, it's easy to defend, because they have one place to defend. And it's especially dangerous to do something like that against phalanx units and phalanx-based armies, because they can just plop a phalanx unit that's fairly full strength right in that gate. And if they sit right in that gate, you're going to have to push your way through. You're going to have to push really, really hard. I'm pretty sure that we've done it ourselves in one of these games when we were taking, I think it might have been a Macedonian town.